intent,
Let's just put it.
the notice of intent for the intersection improvements at the two intersections on Broadway. So why don't we allow the presentations, and then we will open the public hearing for those in favor and those.
James, just leave it alone. You're not.
I'm only.
Oh, she's not talking to me.
Do you have a preference on where we stand? Do you want us to talk in the microphone? Can we stay up there? What is your preference?
So visually, it's better for them to see up here, but
Okay.
audio, it's better because you're. Oh, although you could take my microphone if you want, and I can go up there. Okay. And I should also say that the mayor's chief of staff is here with us this evening. Jonathan Tebow.
I don't know if Kylie slot is on. She might be present.
Yes. Would it be easier for you to sit here and you communicate with her?
No, that's okay. I don't. She was going to introduce.
Oh, okay.
I can do a quick introduction.
Okay.
Great.
I'm Kylie with the Environmental Services team from Mass Department of Transportation. This is a project on Broadway for two intersections, and we're presenting our NOI, and we have, I think, Andrea from LEC presenting.
That's correct. Thank you. Andrea Kendall with LEC Environmental Consultants. I'm here tonight with Christian.
Hi, my name is Christian Post. Excuse me, and I'm with Ty and Bond, the project designer.
And I thought I'd just start out by describing the wetland resource areas associated with the project, and then Christian will describe the project itself and the associated roadway improvements. I'm going to pass out some site photographs for the commission just to make it easier for the discussion and just augment what's on the boards. The area subject to jurisdiction for this project is rather limited in scope. Sluice Pond is located on the west side of Broadway, and there are the first page of the site photos is a street view of the roadway, sidewalk, fence, and there's a granite block retaining wall that separates essentially the pond from the roadway, and there are a couple of views on that. The second sheet of the site photos shows on the ground bank associated with the pond, which is somewhat of a cobble, stony edge, vegetated edge, and then it goes up in parts to the retaining wall. The retaining wall itself has a little bit of a lip so that it does kind of form a little bit of a barrier from the sidewalk to the pond. And I will pass it off to Christian.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Again, my name is Christian Post, and I'm representing Ty and Bond. As Andrea alluded to with some of those photos, a couple of boards are up there in front of the commission. On the left is a plan view area of the project. The highlighted area in orange indicates the 100-foot wetland buffer zone area. The blue highlights the top of bank. And the pink highlight, probably can't really see it from there, but excuse me, is the approximate top of water elevation.
I'm sorry, could you speak a little bit louder? The
Yes.
chairperson can't hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Didn't want to get too close. So again, the orange area is the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. The blue area is the top of bank, In the pink area, the highlighted area is the top of water. The area included as part of the impact, which is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, the square footage of impact is approximately 19,000 square feet. What's shown on that plan view there on the left is showing that we are staying primarily within the existing footprint of Broadway and only minor blending beyond the layout lines. Within the buffer zone itself, we're providing sediment control barriers in the area of Sluice Pond, silt sacks on all of the existing and proposed catch basins, excuse me, and all the existing trees will be protected to minimize the debris buildup and flow into the outlet of Sluice Pond. On the board on the right are just a few examples of what the tree protection measures would be, the sediment control measures, sediment control barrier measures, would be, as well as the silt sack measures taken to minimize the debris buildup and flow.
Does anybody have any questions? The members just now.
My only question would be general, and that is, do you see any negative impacts on the pond, the vegetation, or any of the area?
No, we are not anticipating any impact to those areas, no.
The siltation control measures would include silt sacks in the drains in the street?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so at this point, I would open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. And again, I stated that Mr. Tebow is here for the mayor, and the mayor has also submitted a letter that has been provided to all of the members, but I'll read it into the record. This was addressed to the chairperson, Mary Lester. Dear members of the Conservation Commission, I write with the understanding that you will be reviewing Mass DOT's notice of intent for traffic and safety improvements at 2 intersections along Broadway at Euclid Avenue and Jenner Street. Although this project is considered the rehabilitation of a public way and will not alter the existing footprint, a short segment of the project is within a buffer zone of Sluice Pond and therefore requires the filing of a notice of intent. I know that you'll be hearing directly from the Mass DOT project team, including its engineers and environmental consultants. It is my understanding that the proposed work will have no impact on Sluice Pond, and all appropriate measures will be employed to ensure compliance with the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, and the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40. Although your review of the project by statute is limited to matters served by the Wetlands Protection Act, if you have any questions on the project outside the scope of the Conservation Commission's review, I would be more than happy to connect you with information about the validity, important safety improvement project. My office is working with State Senator Brendan Crichton, Representative Daniel Cahill, and Ward Councilor Wayne Losey to connect with residents and inform them of the infrastructure and safety improvements that will be made at these intersections, including a public meeting on Monday, June 26th, that I would invite you to join as residents if interested. While I understand that you will not be reviewing the merits of the project at the Conservation Commission, it is worth noting that crash data collected along this corridor, which serves over 16,500 vehicles per day, showed more than 350 crashes, with 78 resulted in injury in a 3-year period. Additionally, these intersections rank in the state's top 200 crash sites. This project will improve traffic flow and significantly increase safety for travelers. Mass DOT has recognized the urgent need for safety improvements at these 2 intersections and will continue working in partnership with the city. Thank you for your time and your consideration. Sincerely, Jared C. Nicholson, Mayor, City of Lynn. And I also have the information on the public meeting, which is going to be Monday, June 26th at 6:30 at Briarcliff Lodge, 112 Kernwood Ave. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in favor of the project? Nobody else to speak in favor? We'll close the public hearing for those in favor and open it for those in opposition. And I would like to, at this time, read a letter from Counselor at Large Brian LaPierre. Dear Chairperson Lester, this has also been provided to the members. Dear Chairperson Lester, I respectfully request to go on record in opposition of the above mentioned matter. In regards to the plans for Jenna/Broadway, I am opposed to the project in its current state. I am opposed for a variety of reasons, notwithstanding the poor, in quotes, rollout of this project dating back to 2018. Poor communication by both state and city officials do not lead me to believe that we, as a community, should have any confidence in the state or the city in listening to its city residents. I cannot support this notice of intent. Thank you in advance for your assistance in this matter. Sincerely, Brian LaPierre, Counselor at Large. If anybody else would like to speak in opposition, I just need your name and address, please.
My name's Salvi Miliaccio. I live at 181 Broadway in Lynn, Massachusetts. Mike, I'm glad to see that you're going to get a new Pickering. You know, it's interesting about that informational meeting on Pickering. I've never been to the Conservation Commission meeting before, and to have a public hearing of such a project that has such magnitude for a neighborhood without any information leading up to this is not becoming this
Sorry,
city.
the Pickering wasn't a public hearing, that was just...
No, I know it wasn't a public hearing. I was referring, it was an informational meeting, and that this happens to be a public hearing with no prior informational opportunities given. Now, and I'll give you the information, the facts, okay? And I believe, I have a letter here that was prior to 2018. There was one neighborhood meeting for this project. One. 0 cents. No neighborhood meetings. No informational meeting, except one, by the Mass Department of Transportation. December 14th, 2021. One of these types of meetings during COVID. Okay? And that during that informational meeting, this was the plan for the project that was distributed. Mike, I'd like to show you that. That is the plan that was given to the neighborhood or anyone who was who attended that meeting. Okay? Now, in that meeting, and this is a letter signed by Carrie E. LaValle, PE Acting Chief Engineer. In the last paragraph of
Could you
this
just
letter.
speak into the microphone so the chairman can...
Yeah.
Sorry.
You didn't have a cold, did you? No. Right. It says here in the last paragraph, Mass DOT encourages input from local communities and values your opinions. Please be assured that we will undertake no project without addressing the concerns of the community. How can you address the concerns of the community if you are not listening to the community? Now, that's not coming from me. It is coming from me. But I'm not alone. You read the letter of Councilor LaPierre. I also have a letter from Councilor Brian Field, who sent me a letter. And I read at my neighborhood meeting, the only neighborhood meeting on this project was at my house that I called. It says, from Brian Field, Councilor at Large, I wanted to pass along my official comments regarding the proposed state-funded project at Broadway, just in case our previously scheduled council meeting on Tuesday, June 13th does not allow me to be with you. I have reached out to the Miliaccio family a little over a week ago when I first became aware of the proposed land taking requested by the state. I've also had discussion with other residents on Broadway that would be impacted by the proposal. I have informed them that I support their efforts and intend to vote no on the proposal by the state. I am personally disappointed with the lack of communication from Mass DOT and their lack of community involvement in the decision-making process. Please know that he's supporting the neighborhood. Now, why am I going here, okay? I've never been to a Concom meeting like I said. So I had to spend some time finding out what does the Conservation Commission do, and how does it impact us? And so I looked up what conservation meant. And conservation means a careful preservation and protection of something. Planned management of a natural resource to prevent exploitation, destruction, and neglect. How appropriate for this to be before the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission shall take into account, this is your bylaws. The Conservation Commission, actually, I'll read it right from the bylaw. The purpose of these bylaws is to protect the wetlands, related water resources, blah, 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 likely to have a significant or cumulative effect upon resource area values, including but not limited to water, but wildlife habitat is in there, agriculture, but it talks about resource area values. So I looked up resource area values. Resource values mean resources are anything that has utility and adds value to your life. The value of each such resource depends on its utility and other factors. I'm going to contend to you that the area outside of Sluice Pond, our neighborhood, has a utility to our community, and it's appropriate that this is before you this evening. The Department of Transportation did nothing to look at the resource values outside of the wetlands. They're not looking at habitat for wildlife. They're not looking at trees, the shrubs that are going to be torn up. There was no notification to any, that's why there's nobody here. Okay? Because nobody got notification of this meeting by hand within 100 feet of the proposed project. I read about it on June 13th, a week ago. For some reason, 1 week ago, this public hearing was decided. 1 week. You have a thing in your bylaws that says notice to abutters. 100 feet, if you're an abutter, and I'm making an argument here that when you're going to take away grass berms, and you're going to take away shrubs, and you're going to impact the environment adversely. Is that me or somebody else? We ready? Are we done with the, I don't know what this thing is doing. Am I doing it, or the feedback, or it's distracting? I can't keep my thought process
Someone
here.
hung up.
Sorry?
Someone hung up.
Oh, maybe it
whoever
was
that was.
Miss LaValle. The burden of proof falls on the state or the applicant. The applicant for a NOI shall have the burden of proving by a preponderance of the credible evidence that the work proposed in this application will not have unacceptable, significant, or cumulative effect upon the resource area values protected by these bylaws. Failure to provide adequate evidence to the commission supporting this burden shall be sufficient cause for the commission to deny the grant. The following areas are subject to bylaws. Vernal pool isn't a bylaw. A vernal pool. And vernal pools can be man-made. And I'm going to make an argument to you that the fountain that I have on, I know it may seem, a little weird, but vernal pools can be man-made. That's a natural watered fountain where birds drink, bathe, and in the shrub that they want to remove, they mate, they nest. Frogs are in that pond. Now, if I was a salamander, I feel I have more protection than as a human being. Because that's what people were telling me. Get a salamander, get a rare plant, do these things. But I'm not going to be a salamander. Okay, we're not salamanders. Okay, we're human beings. Okay, and to have this, to not be given the opportunity to talk about our environment when you're going to pave over the grasslands, rip out the shrubs, all in the name of progress. Well, that happens, I guess. They do it a lot in Texas. A lot of cement. That green space, the cars got to go faster. It's about anything about the environment. Conservation of our environment. Conservation of our neighborhood. And it may be funny about a vernal pool, but you have the power to decide what a vernal pool is. You have the power. Vernal pools and vernal pool habitat, as defined by this bylaw, shall be determined by the Lynn Conservation Commission. The commission need not identify vernal pool or vernal pool habitat locations prior to the application. A vernal pool can further be defined by the divisions of fish and wildlife and endangered species, in part a temporary body of fresh water that provides critical habitat. And that's what it is. It's fresh water. Provides critical habitat for many vertebrate and invertebrate species. Frogs are listed. I didn't know. I don't know anything about this. But you can decide that, if it's a vernal pool or not. And if it is, you can make the right decisions here. The land area within 100 feet of any freshwater marsh or vernal pool area is protectable resource area. We are a protected resource area because we provide wildlife habitat and we improve and add to the aesthetics of the area. That's number 4. Okay? We do that. I do that. Okay? You come down to that corner, it's beautiful. You pass this, it goes away. Not because I want it to, I have no choice. I have no choice. They're going to tear it up. It'll be gone. And not just in front of my house. We're not NIMBYs. You know what we are? NYMPHs. Not in our front yards. Because our backyards, they're in the back. This is all along our front yards here. It says here, in order to provide for protection of the above protected resource, any activity within 25 feet of a wetland resource area. That's us. You know what activity means? Destruction of plant life. It's in your definitions. You go to the definitions, the word activity states destruction of plant life. Altering more than 75% of the protected lands within 100 feet area on any lot. Altering. You know what altering means? Destruction of plant life. This project is going to destroy plant life. The DOT doesn't care, okay? Because they don't have to. They don't have to. You also have structures of historical significance or archaeological interest. So even if you don't want to think I'm a vernal pond, I'll make the argument that I am. When a man-made structure to historical significance or archaeological interest are located within a resource area or the buffer zone, the Commission may require adequate measures to protect these structures. So at the very least, I can make an argument that that fountain that has been there for 40 years is a structure of significance for this city. And if you don't think so, listen to what the community is saying. That's all I'm saying. Listen to the community. If you don't want to listen to me, I don't blame you, because I don't want to listen to me sometimes either. I guess I've said all I could possibly say. And the crux of the matter here isn't the project, it's the process, okay? And if you're not going to listen or get input from the affected community, there is no process. I didn't make this process. All I can tell you is there were 2018 there was a meeting, then there was a DOT meeting in 2021, and then letters went out saying this project's going to happen. April 28th, Friday afternoon, right out of the playbook. And then a public hearing of the Conservation Commission in a week, by the way. I don't know. The ball's in your court, folks, you know. It's your city, it's your neighborhood, it's your environment. If we don't matter, hey, you know, nothing I can do about that. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else who'd like to speak in opposition? Name and address, please.
It's Michael Satterwhite, and I live at 41 Bridle Path Road in Lynn, but I also own 125 Linfield Street, which is on Sluice Pond. So my concerns, you know, I stand with those residents on Broadway, and what Mr. Salvi just said definitely is important and should be put out there. I'm here to add to that. So the Linfield Street project is ongoing. It's current now, and now we have Broadway. When you put them together, they're going to have substantial adverse impact on Sluice Pond. If you had multiple homeowners come to you in one night with over 18,000 square feet of land and asked you if they could do projects side by side on Sluice Pond, you guys would pause and say, hold up, that's going to be a substantial impact on this vital resource for our city. We just saw them use water from this pond to help put out the fires up in the woods. In addition to that, we know that Sluice Pond flows into Flax Pond, so it could also have an impact on Flax Pond and those residents as well. It's the same petitioner, it's the state, but it is a different project, but it culminates with the other ones. What bothers me the most is that no one on Sluice Pond was notified by hand or certified mail about this hearing. And I know Sarah Fox and those at the Sluice Pond Association, which I'm a member of, would have been here to talk about it and the potential impact that that could have with addition to the Linfield Street project that's ongoing. We'll now have almost 4 corners of Sluice Pond under construction, which heightens the ability for it to be drastically impacted in a way that could substantially cost the city tons of money and devalue the property that's around that pond. So that's the approach that I'm coming with as an owner on Linfield Street, as a person that enjoys Sluice Pond with his family, and the fact that this could have a drastic adverse impact on that pond brings concerns to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak in opposition? Name and address, please.
Yeah, Dale Bragan, 184 Broadway. All right, so I lived there 30 years. I get a packet in the mail on a Friday night telling me, from what I'm looking at, because I'm not a lawyer or anything else, telling me that they're going to take 12 feet of my driveway, 6 feet of my front of my house, would put it right up against my stairs, and no notification of it. Telling me, open a domain, or we may pay you for it, or I don't understand it. I'm not a lawyer. But the things you guys have planning since I've been talking to people, and the markings out in front of my house in paint, saying you're gonna put a pole next to my driveway, almost in it. Well, I'm assuming if they take 12 feet, there will be no driveway. And there's a lot of people just around me that got the same packet, and none of them understand it. Nobody's talked to us about it. You know, nobody's come out and said, hey, we're not actually taking 12 feet of your driveway, but that's what we're expected. We're not architects, we're not lawyers, we don't know. We're looking at this picture with a line going through our property. I don't know what else to say to that. I'm not as prepared as everybody else. I just found out about the meeting. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else in opposition?
My name is Kathleen Bourgeois, and I live at 191 Broadway. And I just wanted to say that I also received a packet in the mail on a Friday, registered mail, with no warning that 8 feet across the frontage of my property would be taken, and with some language in the packet that I didn't understand, and it was confusing. There's no plan. The plan that they sent me, a picture, part of it was cut off. I have no idea what is being put where. I do know that the Mass DOT had come out to my property, and in front of the house on the sidewalk, they've marked it, so there's gonna be a big, huge light post or signal light right in the front of my house, very close to my walkway. And I'm really surprised that we didn't get any information, any time to talk about it, any time to at least ask questions. And so it's making me feeling a little anxious about this. I'm a person that likes information, so I can at least digest and know what's going on. I just see a lot of negative things coming out of this because of that surprise. So I don't know if there's some kind of recourse. I know that we do need some signal lights along Broadway. I don't think it's going to stop the traffic from going fast. I think there needs to be more law enforcement for travelers traveling down the roads today. I don't think that's the issue, is to alleviate the traffic. There's traffic everywhere. Just look at Boston Street. when you're heading on Boston from Chestnut Street to Boston, when you're taking a left onto Washington Street. It's awful there. I mean, but that's all I have to say. Just like we need information, and we need to have people be held accountable to give us that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in opposition? Anybody else in opposition? No one else in opposition, so we'll close the public hearing to those in opposition. Does the commission have any questions?
The first question that I have, Jamie, is do we have documentation on the record of the notification of the abutters as required under the Wetlands Protection Act?
Andrea?
Yeah, Andrea Kendall with LEC. MassDOT is not required to provide a butter notification. They are exempt from that aspect. In addition, the state is also exempt from local bylaws. So we submitted that needed to clarify this NOI under the act only.
So, in other words, there was no
Can you
notification
talk
under
into
the
that so
bylaw?
Mary can hear you? Oh, into the microphone so Mary can hear you?
Yeah, so in other words, there was no notification under the bylaw or the Wetlands Protection Act, based on the fact that the state is exempt from those notifications.
That's correct. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Can we make just a statement?
Sure.
I would like to state on the record, I think this project should not be done, and the state and the city should be appalled at the way they've gone through this.
I tend to agree with that, but I also know that our actions here are limited to our jurisdiction, and our jurisdiction ends quite a bit short of Mr. Migliaccio's property. And as much as I would like to accept his definition of a vernal pool, I don't believe it's consistent with the regulations or the bylaws.
I have to second that. Unfortunately, I have to go by the information that is given to us. We have no jurisdiction beyond that blue line right there, or excuse me, orange line. But again, I want to say it's a vernal pool, but I know that leads to other things, so.
Personally, I would say that it should be afforded some protection regardless of whether it's a vernal pool or not. But having said that, we are limited to the information presented to us by engineers and much more qualified people than myself. And on that basis, I would make the motion to issue a standard order of conditions for the project.
Is there a second? Mayor's the chair, she can't second, I don't think.
There's no second?
No, I can't second.
Doesn't pass.
She can't second it. Well, we could have a second to the motion, it doesn't mean that you're in favor of the motion. It would just let us move forward.
I can second it.
Okay, so I'll do a roll call. Brenda?
Nay.
Emily? Mr. Toomey?
Based on the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw, I would vote yes.
Mary?
I agree with Mike, not that I agree with them, but according to bylaw. I vote yes.
So, that means we have a tie.
Doesn't pass.
So it doesn't pass?
The motion doesn't pass, right?
Okay, so the motion fails. Next on the agenda is the Northern Strand on-road extension to Nahant Beach. That is also, Ms. Kendall?